When doing research into the storyline of my film, I knew immediately I wanted to create something that wasn't conventional or scary like you would see in a thriller, but rather something similar to the idea of using a place that should feel safe and making it creepy and uncomfortable. The location was the first thing I had in mind even before I had my storyline, meaning my storyline was based around the idea for my location as were the characters. When I decided to use my nan's house, I knew I wanted to use my nan in the filming also, as elderly people look much more professional in a serious in a student short film rather than friends, as elderly people should attach the audience some kind of emotions, whereas a teenager wouldn't really make the audience feel much for them in a sad or scary situation. I feel as if the stereotype of elderly people is loneliness and being scared and alone, which, when put in a scary situation in a film, can make the audience feel sorry for them and like they want to help, which will hopefully keep them watching. As for my other character, I wanted the complete opposite for the same effect. I wanted a young child, again, to look more professional than using friends and to make the audience feel worried and scared for them when put in a scary situation, as children are often known for depending on families and not being able to protect themselves easily. The location of my nan's house inspired these characters before I even had a storyline, as the idea of a safe home with a young child and elderly woman is something so simple and something that should be safe, but I wanted to play around with that idea and create something abnormal and something that goes against how the audience should feel watching something like this. Working around the idea of the safe location innocent character, I slowly looked at others short films and existing full-length films to slowly create and work on my storyline inside this location until I eventually created drawings. The main inspiration for my location, I think, is Poltergeist and the house in this film. The house in the house in Poltergeist is exactly the type of house I had in mind when I knew I wanted this as my location. The old-fashioned wallpaper and vintage furniture make for a really homely location, but when put with some creepy music and creepy characters, can really be flipped around and made to make the audience feel something completely different in a location like this. The reason this house inspired my nan's house was mainly furniture and decoration, as I wanted the house to not look too modern, however, not completely old-fashioned to the point it's obvious the inspiration behind it, but rather a house somewhere in between, which my nan's house was really good for, as it had new furniture but still contained old antiques and vintage furniture, also from her past, making it a good middle ground for my film. American Horror Story Season 1 was also a big inspiration for me in the beginning, as although I obviously couldn't film in a mansion with different rooms and floors, the murder house in Season 1 was still a family home and still had a family and homely vibe to it when watching. However, it's soon discovered later that the house is full of secrets and lies and is not what it seems at all. This inspiration, I think, was more of an alternative if my first initial ideas didn't go to plans, as although I could not come anywhere close to the location set of this house, the idea of the rooms being more spacey and cold with wooden flooring rather than warm carpets inspired me slightly to almost change my initial storyline ideas and create a bad, cold, and distant environment for the family, creating a different approach to my initial storyline. I feel this house can easily be seen as creepy just by looking at it, and it does not look warm and inviting at all. The dark wood walls and shiny floors can easily be mistaken as a conventional creepy location for a thriller, than a location that would make the audience think they should be safe in and one that contrasts the conventions of a stereotypical location. Going back to my first initial idea of the homely feel and warm, inviting look to the house, my next inspiration was Paranormal Activity. Specifically, the house in Paranormal Activity 2 caught my attention the most as it's a small open plan house with a small kitchen and living room with clothes and children's toys left around the house, giving it that messy vibe, easily showing a family living there. This house was a good inspiration as I could actually come close to creating something like this, as it isn't a big mansion set and it isn't stereotypically creepy, as it's just a standard house with obvious living going on inside it. I liked the simplicity of the house, the subtle colours and materials the furniture had, and I feel as if it would be a place the audience would see a family and think they are safe, in which in which which then would help to create tension when things start to go wrong.